Hey, you want to catch nice, healthy bass? You better have a good harvest strategy. Stay tuned. Hey, I'm Greg Grimes. In the last 25 years, we've worked on thousands of clients' ponds, and one thing we figured out, you better know how many bass to take out and of what size. Let's talk about harvest strategy. So let's talk about bass harvest when it comes to trophy bass management. So one thing you want to do is control the bass numbers, especially early on in a program, or if you inherit a pond that's already bass crowded. So what I mean by that is there's too many numbers of bass to grow the way we want them to grow, specifically for trophy bass management. So you've got to become the predator. You've got to take some of those bass out if you want to sustain really good growth. What happens is you have growth every year, and you have a stacking. You have reproductive success every year without a predator controlling those. So it becomes dominant with too many numbers, so you got to get those numbers down. One thing you want to define first is just the goals for the pond. Again, we're talking about trophy bass management. That's not for everybody. Maybe you want to go to a pond and be able to go out and catch, 20, 30 bass in a good outing. But that's usually going to mean that you're not going to be able to catch a trophy bass. That's more of a realistic goal, is to say, I'm not going to catch 20 or 30, I'm going to go out and catch 5 or 10, but they're going to really be bigger. So realize your goals first and then try to achieve those. So again, talking about growing the bass, you want to keep your numbers down. When it comes to the numbers to harvest, you might want to get a biologist involved. There's a lot of different factors in how many pounds need to come out, but generally, if the pond is in balance, it hasn't already gotten bass crowded, and then 20 pounds of bass per acre is a good way to go. What we see commonly is that the pond does become bass crowded. At that point, doing a more traditional 20 pounds to the acre is not going to cut it. You really have to go 40, 50 pounds of bass to the acre to take out. It can become work to some people. To me, it just means you got more excuses to go out and go fishing. So go out and enjoy yourself. What bass should you harvest is always the next question. You want to harvest the bass that is stunted. Really, ideally, you want to get them before they're stunted, but you will see the dominant bass you're catching is the ones that need to come out. Those fish are usually skinnier. They don't have what we call shoulders. They're longer, more fusiform. They're not going to be growing girth-wise the way some other ones might be. So the best way to determine that is a relative weight index. What that is a standard that was developed based on the length-weight relationship. So you want to start off, you get an accurate length on the bass, get an accurate weight on the bass. Go look at a chart, and what does this bass weigh for this length of the fish? One that I remember is a 12.5-inch bass should weigh 1 pound. So that's a good example. If you weigh that 12.5-inch bass and he's 3/4 of a pound, he's 12 ounces, that's a 75% relative weight. That's a pretty skinny fish. So we want to try to have 100%, maybe 120% relative weight if we're talking trophy bass management. So we want to start utilizing that tool to harvest those fish. What we're looking for on a healthy fish, they have shoulders, they have girth all the way back to their tail. They're not in a fusiform shape. They're not long and skinny like a cigar. They're more shaped like a bluegill, if you will. That's a healthy fish. That's something that you want to have, and you'll get used to. It's something that over time, you're going to know the relative weight of those fish before you even look on the chart, because they're shorter, they're fatter, they're not long and skinnier. Then when we're talking about harvest, the other important thing is the other species in the pond. If you have catfish, or you have crappie, or if you're even farther north, you may have pike or muskie. Those are predators that need to come out too. So if you've got channel catfish that are 4 or 5 pounds, they've got about the same mouth size as a 12-inch bass. You're going to want to take those out. Crappie are a predator. They have a hinged jaw. Take out the crappie too. On the flip side of that, what you don't want to take out are the backbone of the forward base for the bass. You don't want to take out bluegill. Even if a bluegill is really big, if it's, say, 7 to 9 inches, it's going to take a really large bass to eat that. But he's going to be spawning. He's going to be making babies. He's going to be the future food for the bass. So limit the harvest of bluegill, take out the bass based on relative weight, take out your catfish and crappie or any other predators, and you're maximizing the food and really emphasizing the best growth we can have on those bass.